All that we know is that Sam Altman was out. There was a last-minute attempt to bring him back in and found different CEOs and named interim CEOs and replaced them with other CEOs. What we do know is Microsoft has left this situation in a much healthier place than it was before, which is very interesting. Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella announced that Altman and his co-founder Greg Brockman would join the tech giant. Everyone's calling it an ingenious move, a hostile takeover. Less than 24 hours after I made the initial podcast recording on Twitter, OpenAI confirmed that they've reached an agreement for Sam Altman to return as a CEO, and Sam Altman confirmed this via Twitter. Insanity that is very routine in Silicon Valley and indeed in big tech. And I have read a lot of headlines saying this is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. Business as usual. I can't be the only one to think that upon reading these headlines. I'm a scientist. We're in an area that's fueled by innovation where there is very little patience for the status quo. Everything has always been shaken up. We, at the very best, have a 3 to 5 year plan, but none of our 5-year plans typically come into fruition. We're always pivoting and reconfiguring. And if you're a young person wanting to venture into this space where there's a lot of innovation, maybe a lot of startup funding, venture capital, seed funding, this is a dynamic place that's super exciting to work, but you can never really be sure what's coming next. So you have to be ready for the inevitable. Let's look at Microsoft's history in this space and see if this is a little counter to what they've done historically. And of course, spoiler, this is completely in line with everything they've done throughout almost the entire history of their company. To the point where on Wikipedia, there is a very comprehensive list of the mergers and acquisitions by Microsoft. And you look at this list, this is an unbelievable scroll where it just seemingly never ends. You keep scrolling down and down. It's organized by date. And we're going all the way back to the early 90s. And if we look at the most recent acquisitions, companies that you may have heard of, Activision Blizzard, notable for very, very popular games. Diablo 4 is the one that's consuming all of my downtime. Incredible market share in the gaming space, and Microsoft just acquired them in 2022, not without its fair share of controversy, again, around that antitrust regulation, around maybe one company holding too many of the cards, but they acquired Activision Blizzard. If we look at the category of business that they've acquired or merged with over the last just 5 years, video games, infrastructure, optical networking, cyber threat analysis, process mining, marketing analytics, video games, digital media, content moderation software, productivity, education, video editing software, peer-to-peer network. They've got their fingers in all sorts of pies. They are not averse to just outright acquiring you. And with all the resources they have at their disposal, why wouldn't they? Unless, again, the antitrust regulators say, no, this is too much of a monopoly. It's very much in their best interest to acquire these companies. And when they acquire these companies, they typically have to pay quite a lot of money. For Activision, that looks to be, if my math is correct, in the order of $68 billion. What's really fascinating here is that they didn't have to pay anything for OpenAI, at least to remove the guts of it. The founder, maybe many of its engineers, credit to Sam Altman for building a company culture that was loyal to him rather than loyal to a paycheck. It's very hard to do in this day and age. And they were able to extract the guts of that without having to pay any money for the value of that company. But how this evolves is anyone's guess. We don't really know what's going to happen, but certainly Microsoft is very, very comfortable with playing this game of just outright buying their competitor if it's of strategic value to them. Future Jack here. Sam Altman is set to return as CEO of OpenAI. 750 strong workforce and OpenAI all threatened to quit unless the board resigned. Lots of shenanigans back and forth. Microsoft had initially offered Sam Altman and many of the members of OpenAI a job at Microsoft, reinstated Sam Altman as a CEO. And once this has been confirmed, if this return is official and it's signed on the dotted line, he will be OpenAI's 4th CEO in 5 days. If we go through the ringer, Mira Murati, then it was Emmett Shear, the co-founder of Twitch, and then it's back to Altman. So Altman, Murati, Shear, back to Altman, all business as usual. These shenanigans are nothing new. This is part of the business when you're taking into account all the innovation or the sheer momentum that a startup needs to have.